This model is an MAN TGX truck with a Palfinger PK78002 knuckle boom crane. The maximum load the crane can handle is 25 tonnes. This particular model is generic to support Palfinger marketing, so it comes in a Palfinger branded box. But the packaging style is pretty much the same as for any WSI truck model, and when you take the outer sleeve off, the model's sitting in a tray with a factory sealed lid. Once you open it up, there's not too many parts to this model. There's the MAN truck, which is almost fully assembled out of the box. And the only other big part to it is the metal swap body. In addition to that, there's a small bag of parts, and that contains the outrigger pads and spreader plates. Digging down below the inner plastic base is a small instruction book. It's a generic manual to cover all of the WSI Palfinger models, and it covers all of the main points of the functionality of the model. It also includes a section about a fly jib, but that's not included with this version of the model. If you want to display the model in transport mode, there's no real assembly to do other than to fit the swap body, and that just clips into the fifth wheel. The MAN chassis is well detailed with metal components for the suspension and transmission. The tyres have a different tread pattern front and rear, and they're mounted on detailed wheels. The MAN cab has a nice beacon light bar on the roof, and the other detailing is good, but as a generic model it only has a plain colour scheme. At the rear, the wheel arches are metal with a strong non-slip texture. The swap body is all metal with nicely detailed drop sides, and there's a usable towing hitch at the rear. Turning to the crane, the outrigger beams are metal with graphics applied, and the pistons have smooth sides. At the bottom of the Palfinger there are various cabinets and tanks, and many small graphics. Most of the smallest graphics are not really legible, but some of them are very sharp. The boom is nicely detailed, and the telescopic sections are thin wall metal. It's out onto the CranesEtcTV autobahn, and the vehicle's not completely free rolling. There's a little bit of friction in the wheels, and you can also see here that the rearmost axle's a little bit wobbly side to side. It looks like on this model WSI have tried to provide a bit of up and down movement on the rear axles rather than just having them fixed. The front axles have detailed linked steering, but the compromise is that the range of movement is really quite small. Still, it's better to have some steering movement rather than none. As expected, the MAN cab tilts, and it can be pose tilted and lets you see the nice detailed engine. The other feature on the truck chassis is the fifth wheel, which is adjustable for position longitudinally. So let's now move on to the Palfinger features. The first thing to do is to set up the outriggers. At this point, if you've got any micro fingers, it's best to screw those into the sockets on your hand because you'll be dealing with some pretty small parts. The front outrigger beam pulls out and the ram rotates down, and at the back the beams just pull out. The front outrigger pistons have got some tiny engineering with a little plastic washer that secures the clip at the end. That then pulls off, and you can rotate the piston down a little if you need it. But you can't go down too far, otherwise that clip won't fit back onto its micro piston above. As you can see here, you have to handle some very small parts, so don't try this sitting on a camel riding over sand dunes. With that said, the trickiest part is to try and pick up that little plastic washer and clip it back on at the end of the piston. You have to be careful here because that little plastic washer is not one that you'd want to drop off onto the floor because it'd be very hard to find. The intricate work is still not quite over because there's the outrigger pad to put on, and also it can sit on a little spreader plate, and you can see that even lining that up isn't easy. You have to do the same thing with the rear beams, but one thing that's noticeable is that the rear beams have a lot of flexibility and play in them up and down, so they don't form a rigid straight line. With the outriggers all set, opening the Palfinger is straightforward, although the hydraulic rams that control it are jerky and stiff rather than smooth. But at least they should be able to hold most poses that you set. The rotation of the crane is also a little bit similar in that it's a bit sticky and jerky, but that might smooth out if you twist it a few times. One feature of this Palfinger model that's very nice is the telescopic boom. Firstly, all the sections are made of metal, probably aluminium, and that gives it a nice realistic thin profile. It also works very well too because it very smoothly extends, and because of the relatively light weight of the metal used in the telescopic sections, they do tend to hold any extension set even if the boom is pointing upwards. And if you do angle it fully up, you do get an impressively tall model. Sticking on the tape measure is about 17 inches or 44 centimetres high. The other posing possibility, if you've got a suitable WSI trailer, is to attach it to the MAN. So to do that, you just remove the swap body and then try to attach the trailer. You can now see why the fifth wheel is adjustable on this model, because it needs to be further back for the trailer to be able to attach properly. And it's the usual connection of putting the kingpin of the trailer into the fifth wheel. And if you position it all correctly, there's no fouling between the trailer and the MAN. There may be one very small issue though, which is that the fifth wheel on the MAN might be very slightly higher because the wheels don't properly ground when the trailer is attached. One other thing to report during the making of this video is that once again some members of the Cranes Etc team were just seen hanging around. This is a very detailed model of a Palfinger knuckle boom crane. It's a well-made model with a good range of features which on the whole work very well. These kind of heavy haulage trucks are impressive, and for anyone who likes them, this one is highly recommended.